Hello everybody, welcome to episode 138 of Shelf View, where today we'll be going over episode 8 of Daemons of the Shadow Realm. And this episode wasn't really, I guess, very, action-packed nor event-packed, so I won't keep you very long, but yeah. So, this episode starts off with us seeing as the Tadera and Yuru's group and all of that, and the Kagemori is prepared to go on into breakfast. And we see, as we get to learn a little bit more about Hageru, who is actually named Kagemori Hikaru, or Hikaru Kagemori. And we see as we actually just see his power, and he has two daemons which are entitled Whiteout and Ink, and they essentially allow the formation, the creation of matter, and then the coloring of it. Because we see as he fixes the little mat of their house, he fixes a couple of beams and all that, and the only thing that's different is the coloring of them, because he can only do in black and white. But eventually he mentions about how they end up fading into the other colors. So everything looks fine in the end. But yeah, so we see that in fact Hikaru is a renowned mangaka or manga artist, and he does not actually want to be the head of the Kagemori, though he is the eldest son. Afterwards, he just wants to continue to be a mangaka. He doesn't want to be a part of this shady clan. But yeah, so actually after this, we get a layout of the Kagemori family. So we know that Gonzo is the head, and then he has three sons, and his three sons are Hikaru, who is the oldest, then Asuma, who's the second oldest, and then Jin, who is the third, or the youngest. So then why these characters look so different is because each of them come from different mothers. So I guess Gonzo was getting around in his youthful age. But yeah, so we learn all this, and then ultimately we see as they actually go on to breakfast, we see as the daemon assistants around the house are helping prepare everything, put down little pillows and everything so they can all talk and all that. So yeah, then we see as everyone's kind of chilling, enjoying their breakfast until ultimately conversation breaks out about Higashi Village and all of that, and it kind of ruins the mood. We see that Jin and Tadera are talking, and Jin suggests that Tadera might be there for nefarious reasons, but he's like, I can only break through certain barriers, and I didn't come here with malicious intent. I just came here to protect Yuru and bring him back. But we see as this all kind of continues to talk out and play, and we ultimately see as they begin to discuss the topic of why the Kagemori family wants the twins. They want the twins because they want to, well, at least Gonzo wants the twins, because he wants to cut them off from Higashi Village so that no more twins can be produced, because anytime twins arise, anarchy follows. So he wants to avoid the reoccurring event of the twins of fate appearing. So we see that, and then we see as they're kind of talking about this, and then Asuma is like, no, I actually don't agree with that. Asuma is like, I want to get the twins, and I want to get the twins and not have to go about destroying Higashi Village. He believes that the Kagemori family should be able to control the twins, and that Higashi Village should be allowed to live, even though this gives far more power to the Kagemoris. And we see this, and ultimately Yuru kind of gets a little bit disgruntled by this, and he's like, yo, I don't want to be anyone's pawn. I want to be free. I want to go back doing my own things and all of that. And we see that he expresses a deep desire to be truly free rather than being suppressed by any clan or being the power of any clan. So yeah, we see this plays out, and then ultimately Asa, who's been fawning over, well, not really fawning, but been in admiration of Yuru throughout this entire breakfast. She's like, oh, he drank miso soup. Oh, he ate rice. But yeah, so we see after that, but she actually locks in here and she calls him an idiot. She's like, you're a big idiot. And she mentions about how he doesn't know what it's like to be pursued by Higashi Village assassins, and to want freedom is kind of a stupid choice. Ultimately, he's like, no, I still want freedom. And then she speaks with right and left, and she's like, yo, right and left, are you gonna try to convince him out of this? And they're like, nope, we're gonna go with our master. So, and they're obviously excited about having more fights and all of that. So we see as Yuru establishes his idea of wanting to be completely free, and he's like, I'm going to leave. I'm going to go with Dara, because Dara, though I realize what the Kagemoris have done for Asa and saving my parents and all that, or at least not really saving my parents, but giving them a place of refuge, I still can't go with the people who killed my village and disgraced it in such a way. So he's like, I can't go with the Kagemoris. So I'm going to go with Dara and live with him, and just really go about learning more about himself and eventually finding his parents. But yeah, so we see this, and we also see discussion about who could have possibly taken their parents, or Yuru and Asa's parents. We see that they suggest the Kagemori family could have done it, but they also suggest the Higashi Village could have done it, and nothing's really decided upon. But ultimately, like I said, Yuru decides that he's going to go with Dera and team up with him. But Asa's like, I cannot leave this area, because if I leave this area instantly, assassins are going to start attacking and all of that, and I am here. I'm indebted to them, and I don't deserve, but I owe them a deep debt of gratitude and all that. So we see as breakfast kind of slowly comes to a close and all of that, and ultimately Yuru prepares to leave. And they're kind of talking all that, and ultimately we see as Asa pulls out a phone. She's like, yo, you want to take a picture with me? And obviously Yuru's astounded by this because he doesn't know what a phone is. And he sees a picture, and he's like, is this a really good wood engraving or something like that? And then we see they're just kind of talking about and all that, and we see as the right and left are like, yo, we want a picture with Yuru too, but they're unable to get photographed because they're spirits. And so no fatal frame stuff going on here. But yeah, so after that, we see as ultimately they're kind of giving their goodbyes and all of that, we see as then, crap, Asa asked for an address from from Yuru, so she can actually go visit him and send him mail and stuff like that. But Tadera ultimately strikes that down. He's like, no, I'm not allowing that to happen because I don't want Kagemori people knowing where I live and having any piece of personal information about me. So they end up asking for like phone number, email. He's like, no. So ultimately, they end up trying to decide a way that they can get in contact because it's for the benefit of them that they can get in contact since each of them have a twin. So ultimately, we see as Jin ends up giving Dara a card to his like the Kagemori own like woman's bar, or not woman's bar, but like nefarious lady club. That's how I'll say it. But yeah, so we see this, and ultimately we see that Jin's like, you go there to meet up with us, and Dara's like, no, I'm gonna get unlimited drinks. Well, that's at least what his face says, according to Jin. But yeah, so ultimately they end up leaving and the door's shut, but then we see as they open right back up, and Asa rushes out and gives Yuru a hug, and then ends up going back and wishing him good luck and all that. And so we see as Yuru kind of breaks down, he starts crying a little bit. He's like, if she was a bear, I would have been dead. But he's obviously crying because he had such a heartfelt emotion, and he's like, yes, that is the true Asa, because he does reminisce a little bit about how it's kind of sad how she went from being confined into the cage that she was in her childhood to being confined within the lands of the Kagemori headquarters now. So she kind of went from confinement to confinement when Yuru has essentially always been free. It's a really sad trade-off. But yeah, then we see as each of them going their respective ways, and we see as Gonzo starts to discuss about how it is a bit unfortunate for the twin with the Seal ability to have acquired, at least unfortunately Hayamoris, to have acquired both the right and left, because this leads to some difficulties for them. And we see about how they're mentioning if anything happens to Yuru, then right and left might go like berserk and all of that. And we see when he's talking about anything happened to Yuru, we get a brief pan to Asuma. We just see him walking down the hallway. No, not even his face is visible, but it shows over to Asuma. And that's kind of like where the episode ends after that. So I'm really curious about what Asuma is. Asuma seems like a double agent, or possibly like a ne'er-do-well of some sort, because I don't know what his like prerogative is. I don't know what he's going after. I don't know anything about Asuma, because we've seen him so little. Like, the most we know about him is his name, his visage, and that he's the second brother. He's the middle brother. So yeah, I'm really just ready to see what they do with Asuma. And I think something's building up to happen within the next episode, because it's been kind of chill for these last two episodes. So I'm ready to see what comes in episode 9, because I honestly think it may have something to do with Asuma. Asuma might not come into play later on. Asuma might not even be a important character in the story, but I think he probably is. But yeah. That's how it really was for episode 8 of Daemons of the Shadow Realm. I really enjoyed this episode, though it was more like slice of lifey stuff. Not really slice of life, but just like calmer, less climactic. So yeah, I'm ready to see what episode 9 offers, and that's all I really have for episode 138 of Show For You. So thank you very much for watching.